How I roll.
Like that stress, and you're like, I don't know what to say, and then you say the wrong thing anyways. Oh, look at that. Hi. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Ink, the talk show that takes you behind the book to meet the authors and professionals in the publishing industry. We're doing another live show from my house today. And we've got the wonderful science mom, Jenny Ballif, here with us. Oh, I'm hearing an echo. Uh-oh, Jason, is that you?
It was me. I'm sorry. I was playing the YouTube video.
Don't do that, Jason. And of course, as always, my wonderful co-host, Jason Lavelle.
Hi, everybody. Team Science, yes.
Well, let's jump right on in. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I started when my son was in second grade. I volunteered to go into his class each week and do a science experiment because I'm a real scientist. I have a master's degree in molecular biology. And his teacher had told me that because of the new emphasis on testing, she'd had to drop a lot of their science curriculum, and it kind of broke my heart. So I said, can you give me 15 minutes a week? I'll come in, I'll do a high energy, fun demonstration and teach just a little principle. And she said, sure. And my name up until that point had been Andrew's mom, because my son's name is Andrew. And once I started doing science, the kids began to call me Science Mom, and it stuck. I've been Science Mom ever since.
I love it. That's a great name, though.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. You're somebody's mom. You lose your identity completely when you have kids. So yeah, I'm Allie's mom. I'm Zoe's mom. I'm not Andrew's mom because it's catchy.
It is. It is. I love the name Science Mom. And so for about 4 years, I went every single week to the school in Boulder City where my kids go, and everyone knew me. A day a week where opening bell, I'd have a little break from. Remember, can you write down the instructions? And they were asking me over and over again, please write down the instructions. And so I started making.
I don't know if you ladies can hear me, but you guys are really choppy over on my end.
And spending a lot of hours folding and books and putting them together, I thought I really ought to just make them.
Oh, that's cute.
Good.
That's awesome. Now, and I'm gonna.
I do. So there's 7 in the series on water. That's the first video that I uploaded to YouTube because I developed a series of experiments that explained different properties of water. So and then surfing when frozen, and sort of went through like all the chemical properties of water. And I had like 3 one. So I started my YouTube channel and the books with my water series, and I've who my favorite kid is. But I think my favorite is probably the one in the first Guide to Water, Science Mom's Guide to Water one, where you do hot and cold water. You put a layer in between the cups and stack them. So one's hot over cold, the other one's cold over hot. And then when you pull it out, you use food coloring to dye the water, and one of them will mix together immediately and the other one stays layered. It's a classic science demo. It's been around for a long time, but just really, really fun, and never fails to really delight and surprise.
I can imagine. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jason? Uh-oh, did we lose you?
Sorry, I was muted because the feed was really choppy over on this end. So I muted you guys, or I muted myself. That way I could look at the live video and see if we were choppy on there. And I've been unable to determine if we're actually choppy or if it's just my internet over here. But I did hear bits and pieces about making awesome foldable books about water.
All right.
Half the conversation there.
No worries. No worries. We'll catch you up as we go along.
Well, speaking about the books, though, how did you actually go about printing the books? What process did you do?
So I self-published on Amazon, But for the books that I take to school visits, I usually print them with a local printer here in Vegas or with a friend of mine owns an Alpha Graphics store up in Utah. So we go up to visit family. I'll drop by and pick up a print run at his place. I like the quality of the binding just a little bit better at those stores that I've sourced here locally. But I went with CreateSpace because it was very easy and straightforward, and I already had done all the formatting myself. Yeah. Now they're on Amazon, and then I have them when I do school visits. I do plan.
Sparks, especially when you do a book that has color in it, or if you have a book that's heavily graphic heavy, Ingram Spark is usually cheaper when it CreateSpace, and they also own the KDP version as well. Since Amazon went to print with KDP, they're almost mirror.
Unique niche because they're coloring book, so they're black and white, and then whenever I do trade shows I have coloring pencils that I sell as well, and they're a science activity book. So the idea is that the kids would write in them, the kids would color, there are mazes for them to do, there's like a color by numbers thing at the end for them to color as they go through the book. And so it's positioning wise, it's a little tricky because coloring books are I think they're dying off really big on Amazon for a while, and everyone kind of jumped on the self-publishing bandwagon with coloring books, but then the market got saturated. And this wasn't really, I didn't want to target people who did coloring books. I'm looking for, science activity, people who are looking for science activities
and stuff would be a great market to look at with those.
Yes, I totally thought like homeschoolers were my market. I went to several homeschooling shows. Jump on board and like join my Patreon campaign and support me. So
okay,
anyway,
that's kind of shocking because that is exactly what I would think, for the moms that are trying to come up with their curriculum. If they're not following a standard, they do things like this. The non-schooler, I forget, there's a term.
Unschooling.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
And that word curriculum. So I have sisters who homeschool, and they told me when I first started, they were like, you know what, once you get all 7 of these out and you can say like, this is a complete curriculum that teaches like all the basic principles of chemistry for a 4th grader, for example. She's like, then homeschoolers will really like this and they'll sell well. But she said, while there's supplementary material, while you just have 1 or 2 out, that they might not do as well because a lot of homeschoolers are looking for a curriculum. They want to get something that will give you a whole semester. And so far, the conventions, homeschooling conventions that I've gone to, I've been able to earn back my registration fee, but I haven't seen like a spike in my YouTube subscribers or increase on Patreon. Like I haven't seen any noticeable difference in terms of those metrics, which has been interesting. So still working on like trying to narrow down like who is my core audience, like the audience of people who will really jump on board and passionately support this. And
that's really the key too, is finding, your exact market that you're targeting. And it's funny because a lot of us, we think we know we're targeting, market A, and these are the people we want to go after. And really it's not market A, it's like market B or C or D that is near to, but maybe not exactly what we initially wanted to go after.
Yeah.
And I'm finding it doesn't matter what genre you write in, everyone seems to run into that problem.
Where, it can kind of surprise you. And I actually, it was about 4 or 5 months ago now, someone dropped a comment on my YouTube channel saying, really, I think the people who will support you are skeptics and like, the atheist community. And I was like, really?
Interesting.
But then I joined a skeptics forum, and I was like, what? I think there's something to that. I think skeptics are passionate enough about science education that when they see someone who's doing outreach and promoting science education, they're more likely to support. So I haven't had time to really explore that idea fully, but that's kind of
There's something in there too, because like you said with the atheists, because atheists usually, I want proof before I believe in something. They do tend to lean more towards scientific methodology. Yeah. So maybe there is something in there, you know, and again, it's that market near to, but maybe not exactly what you initially targeted. So that's a good point. Now, you said you go to homeschooling trade shows. What other types of trade shows do you go to? Schools obviously being another outlet, I'm sure.
Yes. So I do a lot of school visits every week of the school year. I'm at a different elementary school all day doing a school visit. So I have a lot of experience doing book orders through schools. And then so far I've been to 4 different homeschool conferences, and that's all I've gone to so far. Aside from a few local events around that, like things at libraries and things. Like I was at a little Comic-Con earlier today that the Boulder City Library had, which was a lot of fun. Had a vendor table there. But let's talk a little bit about conventions and trade shows, because I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that you have to have more than books at your table. That's super, super important. I think it's a lot of people who are getting ready to go to the first convention or the first trade show, they'll think like, okay, I'm just going to bring all my books and I'll get a tablecloth and I'll have my books there and I'll sell books. And you have to have more than books.
Yeah, the swag items, the additional things, that's usually what draws the eye and draws people in. And then you can bring up your books. Yeah, we've run into that a lot. I go to Phoenix Comic-Con every year, and I do a couple other comic conventions throughout the year too, but Phoenix is always my big one. It's the biggest one I go to, and I share a table with other authors, usually mostly to offset costs because those things get really expensive. But even then, we've noticed that the whole bookstore feel of just doing your table with all the books out, even if you do a super pretty display, doesn't always draw people in. It's the trinkets, it's the swag. Last year we did dragon eggs to go with our dragon book, little handmade dragon eggs. People loved them. Now you said that, and I remember when I first met you, that was what drew me right in, was these wonderful little bottles.
So I call these chaos bottles, and we'll have to, do you want to hold one of these up to the view so they can see? It's just aluminum powder and a drop of soap and food coloring for the ones that are colored. And they're really just a fun little novelty item, and they last for years. The guy who showed me how to make them has one that's 25 years old and still works just fine. So all the aluminum will settle, and then when you shake them, they get these beautiful swirling patterns. And so to kind of tie them into science, I've got a nice little card that goes with them that explains a little bit about the Navier-Stokes equation and Millennium Prize problems, how there's $1 million prize if mathematically you can model turbulence, and how this is a really cool example of turbulence. And these are one of the show-stopping things that, people, when they're walking by at a convention, the first thing you need them to do is to stop, and then you hope that they will approach your table. So I'll have these, or I have a little levitating orb thing where I'll levitate a little thing of tinsel using static electricity. And if no one's talking to me, I'll start kind of either turning these or playing with the tinsel, and usually people will stop and come over. And if there are a lot of kids at the trade show, I'll take part of my table and I'll just corner it off and say, come try me. And then I'll have little like hands-on things that kids could try. So, whether that's something as simple as like, washers on a string, and if you hold it like this, then they don't fall, wraps around your finger, just fun little science stuff like that. I'll have, about 4 or 5 things out, and just encourage people to come over and, learn something and try out a little science gadget. And then after we start talking, then I'll mention, I've got the YouTube channel and I've got these books.
Yeah, that's the trick. Get them to stop. And it's something that universally, all of us who are trying to sell our books, whatever genre we're in, we have to figure out how to get people to stop and look at our product. And it could be something simple. It could be something fun. Sometimes we do prize wheels when we don't have anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, just anything to get somebody to stop, because when you're at a convention, it's, just tons of distractions and colors and just noises. It's hard to get people to focus right in. It's like walking ADD pretty much.
It is. And the other real important thing is to make sure that you are standing up behind your table. When I do a convention, I never sit down. I just push the chairs all the way under the table. I might use them to store things in, but yep. I stand up the whole time. So you're much more approachable if you're standing up.
Oh, absolutely. And if you can, sometimes too, being out in front of your table is important, because you want to appeal to people. You want to be out there, open, accessible. Not necessarily, the used sales car pitch or used car salesman pitch, but you just want to be an actual presence there. you know, that they can actually interact with rather than, you know, just stuffy standing there behind your, you know, all closed off. But yeah, again, something we all run into. So what are some of your other tricks that you do to pass the time when you're at a convention or, you know, at a show trying to get people to stop and maybe they aren't?
Giving away free stuff is often helpful because if they're expecting, like, there might be something free to give out. So I usually try to have something that's not too expensive on my end to make that I can give out for free. Favorite items along that category are, and this one surprised me, I picked this up from another author, but Kleenex. So you can get the little Kleenex packs, you know, at the dollar store, real cheap, where you can buy a whole bunch. And then you just print a sticker that is the same size as the pack and put it on the back. So I usually try and make it something sort of fun, like a little science quote with a fun little picture or a little cartoon. And then it's actually really quite good advertising because they'll have that Kleenex pack usually in their purse or, you know, with them until they use it up. So it'll be like a couple of weeks where every time they pull it out, they'll see, you know, your brand, your picture, your logo.
Yeah.
So
that's subliminal marketing too.
Yep. So Kleenex packs I think are good. The little foldable books that I make, I'll usually make a whole bunch of those before a convention, and then I'll just have those in a little bucket, and I'll usually try and associate it with something with, you know, like answer this math problem and you get a free book, or something that is just a little bit engaging, or like come try out this science activity and you get a free book, and it's just a little mini pocket-sized book. So they're not too expensive for me to make. There's a time investment. I'll usually have a little folding party and invite like 10 friends over and be like, come help me fold books and we'll just visit for an hour.
I do that with my oldest, she used to help me. Yeah. Here behind the camera. She used to. Now it's my youngest. You didn't make the swag bags last time. Now it's Zoe who helps me make the swag bags. And it's, again, there's something simple, like you said. It's bookmarks stuffed into a cute little cellophane bag. And because it's shiny and pretty, when you're handing it out as a freebie, people are like, oh, I'll take that. And they're much more apt to take that than, hey, want a free bookmark?
Yeah.
Because it's that shiny, pretty, ooh, what's inside? And all it really is, you know, it's a couple pieces of candy. It's bookmarks. It's business cards. It's, you know, material I want people to have anyways, but just done up in that nice, pretty way.
Dressed up, yeah. It's all about presentation. Presentation is huge.
And now my oldest, she helps me at the table. She'll sit behind the table and help me give them out. But it's the youngest that actually builds them now.
Oh, fun.
Did we have a question, Allie?
Yep, there is one question. We can't pronounce names, though.
That's all right. Just tell us the question.
Serge Ballif.
There you go. Do you collect contact information from people at the conventions?
Oh, yes. Like newsletter signups and stuff.
No, yes. So I have been wanting to do, it's been on my list to do a newsletter, but I have been too busy to give it the priority I should. So I collected a bunch of emails at one convention to do on, you know, you're going to join my newsletter. Never got around to it. Threw all those away and decided, you know what, like next year, once I get my newsletter up, then I will collect contact information. So currently I don't. I probably should. I have cards with my YouTube channel. And one thing that I do is everyone that comes to my table, I say, hey, I have an educational YouTube channel. Check it out. I hope you'll subscribe. And a lot of people, I explain to them what subscribing means because people think subscribing means they have to pay money. And so I'll run through a little explanation saying, you know.
That's a good point. Because YouTube Red, though, that is a subscription. So yeah.
YouTube Red is, yeah. And so I say, you know, if you want extra, you know, these extra features and benefits, you can subscribe and get YouTube Red. But subscribing to my channel only means that you will see it more often. And if you click on the little bell, then you get a little notification every time I post a video. So.
Yeah, and that's good. I think a lot of people aren't getting the education that they need when it comes to what some things mean. And they're afraid that, you know, if I'm going to subscribe, it's going to cost me money. Or if I sign up for a newsletter, you're going to spam me. So a little, you know, customer education is always a good thing.
Yeah.
And that actually ends up getting you more signups, I think, in the end, when they realize, oh, well, this is not going to be something that's going to cost me time or investment until I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
exactly.
that's an excellent question. Do you have any more questions from the audience today?
Nope.
No, I actually have a question, though, because you said you do school visits. Mm-hmm. How did you set that up? How did you get into that?
So I set up my school visits. I do them this whole year. I've done them unpaid. I've done them for free. And so I just kind of threw it out there to a couple teachers I knew and said, you know, I have this experience in Boulder City doing school visits. I'd like to expand and go across the Las Vegas Valley. I guess I should back up first. The first time I expanded outside of Boulder City was through the Science and Technology Festival that Las Vegas does every spring. So I did that a little over a year ago and I did 100 science lessons. I taught 100 science lessons at the end of May, and my goal was just to do 100. And so I did, every single week, every single day that week, I went to a school, and it was kind of intense to do a school visit every single day, because I hadn't up till that point. I'd just been on my once a week. So by the time Friday rolled around, I was like, here we go again.
Oh.
And it was the same lesson that I was doing 100 times in a row.
That
So
it gets repetitive after a while. Even when you love something, by the 100th time, you're like, oh God.
And I did love it and enjoy it. And like the audience was new each time. And so the audience was really into it. But there was this point on Friday, I remember, where I was talking, and it was like my brain kind of checked out and my mouth just kept going, because it's like we've done this so many times. And I kind of had to pull myself back, like, you're going to spill water everywhere and like make a big mess if you don't focus on what you're doing. Like, don't zone out. But this year I just sent an email to some teachers I knew saying, will you share this with people? I want to, book up my calendar. And I was really surprised at the response. I booked up completely within 4 days. My entire school year was pretty much booked.
Wow.
So the demand is there, but doing them for free has also had some challenges, though, because there've been a couple times where I've showed up to a school and I'm there to give my all. I've got a whole bunch of supplies that I've bought that I've paid for, and there've been a couple times when the school hasn't given me a cart, and that's the only thing I'm asking for. Like, you give me a cart for my supplies, and I will teach for you all day. And so I've come to decide that next year I'm going to charge for visits. I haven't decided exactly how much or how I'll structure that, but I think there needs to be an investment on their part so that it's valued.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of surprised that you've done it for free for that long. I mean, that's a very valuable thing.
Yeah.
Now, when you do them, are you targeting specific age groups, or is it certain classes? How do you differentiate between your lessons in the schools?
So the lessons that I do, it's typically K through 5. I've done a whole entire visited a whole entire school in the day before, when they've been excited to have me come, and they've arranged for assemblies. And other times I'll just see one grade. But all the lessons that I have, and I have about a dozen now that I've practiced for all ages, that I can easily adapt. If I know I'm seeing a group of kindergartners, I'll teach it one way. And if I'm seeing 5th graders next, then I'll adjust. And I'm able to do that pretty easily. It just doesn't work if you have kindergartners and 5th graders together. That's tough.
Yeah.
But as long as, they're within a few years of each other, I can adjust pretty easily.
Which one's more fun? Are the kindergartners more fun, or is it actually the older kids?
Oh, man. It really depends a lot on the group. I've had fantastic experiences with all the age levels, but I have to say the kindergartners always make me laugh. Their enthusiasm at that age, they're so much fun. But I've had great experiences with all
and it's
grade
still
levels.
Magic at that age too, because science is magic is basically science, just hasn't been explained yet. So when they're seeing the floating orb, it's like, oh my goodness, use magic. But really, there's a reason for that. And once you explain it, it kind of loses some of that flair. But the kindergartners tend to really just believe in the magic. And I think I like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's the elementary ages are my favorite. And that's what I do the most, because scheduling, it's so much easier for a school to schedule you if it's elementary and everyone's on the same schedule. In middle school, when you have the rotation of classes, it's a lot more challenging. And so I don't do as many middle school and high school visits, although I have done I've taught everything from kindergarten or preschool up to college, but most of what I do is K through 5.
Now, have you done any standalone shows that you book yourself and draw an audience?
Not yet.
Okay. Is that something that's down the road, or is that something you're not actually interested in?
Possibly.
It's better to do schools.
Possibly. I started out doing the school visits, and kind of my passion is trying to help get more science in the classroom. So I think I'll continue to do the weekly school visits. Oh, but you had asked about book orders.
Yes.
Earlier.
Let's talk about that.
Yes. So when I first published these two and thought, I would like to do a book order, I called a local author and asked, that I knew had done book orders. And I said, do you have any advice? How do you do it? And I was surprised at how hard it was. I was asking, and he was perfectly willing to share. But when I asked, how many books do you sell on average? Because this was an important question to me, because I was getting ready to build my inventory. And I wanted to know, how big should my inventory be? Should I order, 200 books or 2,000 books? How many should I get? And he said, it's just so variable. There's no way to know. I can't even tell you. And I was like, really? You should be able to tell me. So I kept very good data.
It's very true. It's so hard to tell.
It really is. And here's why, especially for elementary school, it's really hard to predict. I kept very good data with how many book orders I got, trying to pin down, you know, like, is there a percentage? And I tried to see too, like, well, does it depend on like how well I do with the school visit? Like if I give a really outstanding presentation where like, you know, they spontaneously break into applause or ask for autographs, you know, is that going to have any determination on how many books I order? And really, how good of a presenter you are has nothing to do with how many book orders you get. Zero correlation. Because the kids don't have the wallet. The kids are not paying for the books.
Yep.
How many books you get at an elementary school book order entirely depends on the recommendation of the adult who's coordinating the order. Like, yeah.
Okay.
And so if the adult who is coordinating the book order sends out like a personal note saying like, you know, Science Mom's coming, we're so excited, and you can order her books, then I'll get a pretty healthy percentage of people ordering books. But if it's just like thrown up on Class Dojo or one of the other classroom management systems, barely any, even if the kids are super, super excited, because that like kid to parent deciding to purchase line of, like, it's just a lot of steps to go toward.
Yeah.
Plus then there's the remembering. I know I've had a few schools contact me afterwards and said, you know, we had these orders come in late, you know, can we get them to you? And I'll say, sure, just let me know. But even if orders come in late, you know, someone's got to remember to contact and arrange where to meet and all that. And it's not the easiest thing to do. So
I have to agree with you though on the whole passing the direct note, because I remember as Allie was going through the elementary grades, and they would occasionally have authors and presenters come through who had books, and they would send that note and they would send the price of here's how much it's going to cost, send it this day, and this is when the presentation is. I was a lot more attentive to that than if she were to come home and say, oh, we're going to have so-and-so and they're going to be here and they're selling books. Or if like use class dojo, which we didn't really use very much with my oldest, but now my youngest is in kindergarten, and man, the teacher is on it with Class Dojo. Every day we're getting something with that. So I'm a lot more familiar with that system now. And I think now if she would send it, I would probably pay more attention, just because I've been trained this year to constantly use that as the line of communication. I've been trained now, but it's true.
It is.
But yeah, seeing something with, you know, here's the information, bring it this day, this is what's happening, I would be a lot more attentive, and I would have the money ready for that day, as opposed to just, you know, word of mouth.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right there. And so if classes or doing, you know, schools makes up a bulk of your, you know, visits through the year, then yeah, you really want to have them on it as far as what orders and what you're supposed to bring with you. But obviously they haven't been. So how have you dealt with that?
It's so variable. So I've had a couple. I've had 4 visits that I did where the school promoted. And when the school promoted, you know, they were excited that I was coming. One school even sent out like one of their automated phone calls saying, you know, Science Mom's coming tomorrow. It's the last day to get your book order in. Those visits, I sold enough books that it paid for my time. You know, I earned, you know, maybe $200 or $300 in book sales, but that's rare. Most of the time I'll get maybe 6 or 7 book orders total, which is pretty low.
And that's book. That's not
books.
Sets, because you have like a set of 7 in the water series.
Yeah, well, just the first 2 are out right now.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, 6 or 7 books period, which is often, you know, 2 or 3 orders. So it really depends. And then it's fairly often too. It's happened that I'll give them the flyer and say, you know, if you want to do a book order, you know, you can. And I haven't made a book order part of my visit yet, where I say, you know, if you have me come, you need to do a book order. It's just an optional thing that I tell everyone they can do if they want. But it's not uncommon for me to show up at the school and the teacher will say, oh, I never got approval from the administration. I'm sorry, I never asked. And it's like, oh, all right, I guess we're not doing a book order. So that happens too. So the degree of variability, you know, from a school sending out automated calls reminding everybody that I'm coming, to teachers who never even ask permission to do a book order. I mean, it's all across the board. It varies a lot.
Yeah, that's got to be tough to do. So you can't count on that, obviously, for, you know, the income to keep the books going. So what do you do then to keep, you know, being able to continue with this and keep the books on order and keep producing new books?
Well, right now, most of my income comes through Patreon. I have a Patreon campaign that's associated with my YouTube channel. And so if people donate $5 a month, then they actually purchase a book that is then given to a child in an elementary classroom in Clark County.
Oh,
and so
nice.
each time that I do a school visit, I will have a couple books that I will give away. And we have a fun little math game called, who gets the lowest unique number, where we do this little like kind of probability exercise to see who gets the book. So I do that. And we did get up to where we're now funded so that a whole classroom gets a set each month. So each month I get to give out a whole entire classroom. Each kid gets a book and the teacher gets a book because of the support I have through patrons. And
That's awesome.
I would love it if that became the sustainable like business model that I could use. But it's a tough one because it's entirely relying on the goodwill of people's donations and people's generosity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's challenging.
Yeah, and we've talked to a few authors who have used Patreon to varying degrees of sustainability, like you said. And it really, a lot of it depends on how much involvement they have with the people on the other end. And it's kind of hard to do, especially when you're juggling so many other balls in the air. So with that, how do you continue to interact with your audience? Do you post regular videos? What's your model?
Well, I have to say first, my patrons are just awesome. Most of them are acquaintances or friends and family. So, I'm still currently funded mostly by people who, or I think they're supporting Jenny first and then Science Mom kind of second, because they know me personally. But I post extra worksheets and foldable books for them on Patreon. I post a behind the scenes video update each month. So for the person who likes my Science Mom YouTube channel, if they come over on Patreon, it's like, oh, wow, look at all this extra content you get. You get extra behind the scenes videos, extra worksheets. And then hopefully in time, right now I feel like there's not a huge amount of extra stuff they get, but as I keep, every month I'm adding to it, in another year or so, there will be a really impressive amount of educational material that you can get by joining up on Patreon.
Now, I've never used Patreon. I've heard many people use it. I haven't used it myself yet. Can people through Patreon request you to say do certain schools or to go to certain locations?
I could set it up that way right now. So Patreon is kind of like, it's sort of analogous to Kickstarter and other crowdfunding campaigns, but it's a recurring donation. So people sign up to pledge like $1 a month or $5 a month or $10 a month, and then it's a recurring thing that they can stop at any time. And right now, I've just set my reward levels so that the $5 and the $10 pledge, you're giving a book to a kid each month of the school year. And I haven't tied it to my school visits at all. So I arrange my school visit calendar independently. And I let my patrons know that I'm doing school visits each week, but where I go is completely independent. And as far as how I'm going to structure that next year, I'm not entirely sure, because I feel like because of showing up to schools and not having a cart like that, that just like really got me this last month, because I showed up to a school and I had more, like my supplies weighed more than I did. And I physically, like, it was going to take me like 15 minutes to move locations, and I had 5 changes of location. And that was the point where I was like, the visits cannot be free any longer because I have to have a cart. And if the school was paying me $200, they would have found a cart. Like, it's just kind of a sad fact.
Yeah, that's true. I can't believe they couldn't find anything. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, elementary schools, they always have carts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, someone just has to take the stuff off the cart and give it to you. And they weren't willing to.
I can't believe that they wouldn't see the value in what you're bringing and be like, oh my God, here,
I know. It's
like,
kind of sad.
That's kind of a dumb moment. You just go grab a card, no big deal.
So it's kind of a tangent, but yeah, I haven't decided exactly how we're going to structure school visits for next year, but gotta figure out something.
So aside from school visits, then what else are we doing? Are you still doing the? You said homeschooling wasn't kind of working out. Are you still going to the homeschool groups?
I've got one more homeschool convention that I'm going to in June. Yes.
Here's another question.
Okay. Oh, okay.
It's, from Serge Ballif. He has 2 questions. Have you had any luck with community sponsors? And tell us about the periodic table of Patreons.
Oh, somebody who knows you, obviously.
Yes. So I have a periodic table on my website, and instead of being, the elements are patrons who have pledged at a certain level. So if you pledge at a certain level, then I draw a personalized cartoon of you, and you get a permanent place on the periodic table of patrons.
That's adorable. I love that.
And I have experimented with trying to find community sponsors for this, because it is, educational and service in the community. And that ended up Well, it worked out really well, the 1 month that I tried to do it, but the time investment on my end is so high going around and to businesses and asking that I don't plan to do it again. But I did get a tremendous, after all, a lot of work of going and asking, I did get a really good support from some businesses in Boulder City and was able to do a school visit where every 5th grader and 4th grader in the school got a book, or every 4th and 3rd, sorry, and got their own book. And that was really fun. The kids were so excited to each get their own book. So
that's hard to reach out to get sponsorships. I mean, or even to get somebody to donate for something. It takes a lot of guts to really reach out and just go, hey, I want you to do this for me. And even if you have rejection.
And there's a lot of follow-up, because a lot of times you'll go to a business and your initial visit will be just to find out who to talk to. Your second visit will be to go back to talk to that person. And then there's usually like a 3rd visit to go back and that now they've had time to think about it and check and see what they decided. And so, I mean, there can be like up to 4 or 5 visits just to see if they're interested in participating.
Reconfirming and all of that. We, my parents run a charity, and every year they do a charity ball. And one of the donations for that charity ball was actually the catering for it. And this happened last year. They had set up the catering as a donation. They had talked to the manager of this one store that was supposed to be sending all the food out. And then we sent somebody else to go pick up the food. And I guess they weren't paying attention between the 2 of them. And by the time we went to go get the food, one hand hadn't talked to the other. Nobody knew what was going on. And we were an hour after the event started with no food until they finally threw something together for us. And it was just ridiculous. And this was after follow-up, and this was for a charity. I mean, it was like a whole thing. And we ended up getting the food at the end, but everybody was done. It was late. It was over. So yeah, there's a lot, like you said. And even when you do every step in the right process, sometimes you end up with nothing at the end.
It's true. It's true.
So going after the community stuff is good. What were we talking about before that? Other events. So homeschooling, conventions. What else are you doing to get out to the public?
The school visits has been most of it, and then my YouTube channel. I feel like my YouTube channel is probably my biggest way to reach people.
Okay. And now, do you post, you said, new videos every month on there?
Every week.
Every week. Okay, so that's a lot of time invested too. So is it a science experiment a week? Is it you just talking, like live chatting? What do you do?
So I mostly do science experiments, and then we have a little Math Dad versus Science Mom challenge we do every Friday. And so those are nice because we can film them in advance and then schedule them. And then we just know, okay, we have for sure every Friday at 5 a.m. a new video is posting out. And then I just overlay the science videos like as I have time to do them. Hopefully by next year we'll be in a rhythm where we can throw up on the banner, new science video every Monday, Math Dad versus Science Mom every Friday, so our audience knows exactly when our new material is coming.
I like that, Math Dad versus Science Mom. So does he have his own channel too?
He doesn't have his own channel, but it actually started with questions from kindergarten and 1st graders, because when I would go and do this demonstration, I would always ask afterwards, we have time for questions, or what you learned, you can share what you learned. And a lot of 1st graders and kindergartens especially I got this question over and over again, like, if you're Science Mom, where's Science Dad? Like, that was the question I got asked. And he's a mathematician. He teaches math at Nevada State College. And so I would tell them, well, since he's a mathematician, we kind of, our joke is that he's Math Dad, because that's just a better name for him, because math is his thing. Yeah. And then I think it was about 6 months ago, he came to me with this idea, like, oh, I think this would be really fun for your channel. I'll challenge you to answer math questions. And at first I was like, I don't know that I want to like try and answer math questions live, like on YouTube. Like that doesn't sound appealing. But he came up with just a really good system where they're good thinking questions, because there's going to be a way to do them with higher math, but then there's a like think outside the box way to do them where you don't have to use higher math. Okay. So they're more like logic puzzles than actual math questions. And anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed doing that series with him.
That's awesome. And then it gives your viewers something to always look forward to. Yeah. Which they say when you do a channel or any kind of thing like a blog or anything that's scheduled, you should always have some kind of regularity to it, so people know when the next video, when the next post is going to go, because people like patterns. They like regularity.
They do. And it helps you to connect with your audience better, because if they, you know, think, well, a video might be coming out next week or maybe in 2 months from now, but they have no idea, they'll forget about you. They won't check back in. And, you know, if they don't subscribe and click on the bell, they'll never know. But if they get just used to, like, every Friday there's a new, you know, logic puzzle on the Science Mom channel, and they check back in more often, then they'll see your other content too.
Yeah, and that's we try and do that here with Spilling Ink too. It's every Friday or Saturday night. We try to have the new video up each week. So every time we interview an author, whether it's a live show, which live shows always tend to be Saturday nights, or it's a pre-recorded, which we post on Friday nights, we always make sure to have that regularity so that people know, just like you said, they know to expect it. They know that it's coming, and they don't have to, you know, kind of go, when is that again?
Yeah, super important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that advice from someone right when I started my channel. Like, the most important thing you can do for a YouTube channel is to post with a regular schedule. But at the time, I hadn't built up anything in advance. And I was like, it was just too stressful. The few times that I did, like, really bust everything to try and, like, meet a deadline, I made mistakes in the video that then later I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And so, yeah.
I never go back and watch the videos. I can't stand it. I'm like, I don't want to see. Don't look. So when you do these things, and you obviously have experiments and stuff that you do, what is the kids' favorite when you do them at classroom visits?
Oh boy. The 12 that I have, like, I have a little kind of FAQ on my website where I list my 7 or 12. I can't remember how many are on there. I have about a dozen that are really crowd pleasers that get a really good reaction. And it's hard to say if, like, one of them is better than another. They all are really good, present really well. But as far as what videos are most popular, there's no question my slime video is the most popular video on my channel by far. Like, last month, more than half of my total views for the whole entire month, were just the slime video.
Everybody loves slime right now too. It's crazy. I can't. We've already banned slime in this house. We were finding it in everything, so to ban slime.
Well, and I thought when I started having people ask me to do a slime video, I was like, there's so many slime videos on YouTube. I'm like, this fad has, like, passed, and, like, nobody wants another slime video. But I kept getting more and more people asking, and so then I thought, well, okay, I'll do one. And
sure enough,
yep.
That's the key word, slime. People are absolutely, even the teenager over here, she likes slime too. For a while, every time she had kids over for, like, parties or sleepovers, they all had to make slime.
It's really cool stuff.
Which is why I had to ban it, because it was everywhere. You'd open up a container and go, oh my God, what was this? Yeah, it was everywhere. So, all right, because we're getting short on time now, we got to wind it back towards the books and stuff. So you have 2 out now. You have a total of 7 prepared, right?
Planned out for this series. And then I also have, you know, planned out for future, like, Science Mom's Guide to eggs, to milk, to hydrogen peroxide, carbon dioxide. I've picked just a bunch of kind of common kitchen household items, and then just ubiquitous, you know, things that you could do 4 or 5 science experiments with. But I have to say the drawing has been going slower than I anticipated. When you do your own illustrations, it's really time intensive. I had hoped to have, like, 5 of them finished by now, which in hindsight just seems ridiculous to me. Like, I don't know where I thought I would get the time to do that much drawing.
It's doable,
but I need to just make sure I'm scheduling a lot more drawing time to be able to reach that.
Yeah, and as somebody who can't draw anything but stick figures, I applaud you for doing all the drawings in those, because it would be a stick figure book if I did it.
Yeah.
Now, when you have all of these laid out, are you going to have special type package deals? Like, when I know a lot of us authors that do novels, once we get the series done, we'll do the box set. Will you have a Science Mom box set?
I would like to, and I haven't been able to figure out yet how. I'm going to ask you, like, can you get a box with your books on when you're self-published? that seems tricky to me. I was looking around on Amazon. I was like, can I actually do a box set?
It's not something that you would do regularly. You'd have to go to like a specialty printer for it. Honestly, it's not worth it to do it that way. Really, it's just the omnibus type edition. You just do a giant edition with all the stuff inside. Yeah, and you just call it the box set because it is all of the books in there.
But it would just really be one book.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It would be one large book or one large collection.
Yeah. I do plan to put these all together in a set once they're done. And the way I did the spines, I don't know how easily you can see this, but there's 7 of them, and since it's red and orange, and then they'll go through, so there'll be a rainbow and you stack them all together.
Oh, how pretty.
So
I like
that.
that.
Kind of fun.
And you've got all the covers already planned out. I want to just make sure that they can see that when we... Can you see that in the picture? We need our hand model. Where's our hand model here? There we go. Look at that. Put the teenager to use.
There we go.
Can you see them all? Yeah. I love how you've got it all planned
out.
So people know ahead of time that, yes, even though there's only 2 books now, there going to be more. Coming. It's already in the works.
Yep. Although I will say, for any authors out there who are also in children's marketing, self-publishing to the children's market is really challenging because the distribution arm is much more important. People don't buy ebooks for kids like they will for the adult market. And so if I wasn't doing the school visits, my book sales would be pretty much insignificant.
We actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. We talked to some children's books authors last week, and one of them was a Big 5 published. The other one is a Kickstarter self-published who's trying to break into the Big 5. Now, the one who's with Big 5, she has her stuff in Scholastic, and you know how the Scholastic book orders come in every month. We get one from the teacher, you know, hey, this is this month, you can order it. And then next month they'll have another one. And, you know, they really push that, and that helps her sales. The other one, who is an author illustrator, his illustrations are what kind of, you know, are his bread and butter, and he's pushing as hard as he can to get the books towards the good sales. And he had mentioned that too, that, you know, really getting the sales is the hardest part. You really have to do a lot of legwork. You have to be on your game when it comes to marketing. You have to figure out your niche. You have to figure out who's going to be buying those. Any conventions that you can go to, especially geared towards children, you have to show up for. You know, it's a lot of legwork. Now, have you thought to take this and maybe propose it to any of the Big 5 publishers, or even to look for agents who might be able to push that?
You know, it's funny because I've been involved with publishing for quite a while through a writers group that I'm involved with, and then with coordinating the Las Vegas Writers Group or Writers Conference. And so I had decided before I did these that, you know, if you were doing adult, self-publishing was the way I was going to go if I was going to publish an adult book, and if I was going to do children's, then it would only make sense to do traditional because of the distribution arm that you have. And then when I started making these, I felt so passionate about the fact that I include large vocabulary in them and don't try to dumb it down for the kids. And I was 99% certain that any publisher I took it to would say, no, you can't put, you know, words like hydrophobic in here. You have to like spell it out phonetically for the kids. And that was one of my pet peeves when I was a kid, was books that kind of talked down to me. Yeah. And so whether this is a smart business decision in the long run or not, we'll find out. But I decided that was the main reason I decided to self-publish this. And my hope is that especially once I get all 7 out, I'm hoping that I can market smart enough and build a big enough platform that then one of the Big 5 will come to me, or an agent will come to me and say, hey, you know, let's take this bigger. So
then you can keep it the way you had initially planned for it to be. So you're not.
Yeah. Or not do, or keep it close to that way. We'll see how that goes. So that's sort of the, you know, the dream.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
It makes sense. And that's one of the reasons a lot of us turn to self-publishing. And it's not necessarily because we don't feel that we're good enough to get into the traditional market. It's, we know our passion is in our product, and we don't want to, I don't want to say dumb it down. We don't want to mute it at all for another person's vision. And, you know, if you're that passionate, you can turn it into something beautiful, but you have to do all of that legwork. And that's the hard part. There's a lot more than most people feel is involved in that.
Yeah. Just the marketing alone on Amazon to try and get these books to show up when someone searches science experiments for kids. I mean, we could talk a whole hour just on how challenging that can be, you know, getting the reviews. And
which still
Getting the
surprises
sales
me
up.
because when I looked into homeschooling, that's the kind of stuff I would have gone after. It's like, oh, good, this is all the experiments. I don't have to worry about coming up with ideas.
And I hope, once I have all 7 out, and maybe it's just a matter of like not having yet met the right voice in the homeschool community to sort of like champion it. I don't know. But I was really surprised that all the homeschool conventions that I've gone to so far, there's been no measurable uptick. Like I see more of an increase in views when I do a school visit than when I go to a homeschool visit, where I see 10 times more people. And I'm not exactly sure if that just means that it's not like they're not as interested for whatever reason, or maybe they're just not on YouTube. Like maybe they are using the material, but I just don't know about it. I don't know.
We'll have to put that out to the audience. So anybody who's watching either now or in the future, we'll always check the comments later. But if you have any ideas on where to market these books, put your view in the comment below, and we can always pass on the message to you. But it's great for everyone in general, just to kind of get some new ideas on where to reach out to the community with different types of products. I mean, this right here is fabulous. It looks cute. It looks inviting. And of course, as a mom, especially moms of boys love anything explosive. I mean, not that girls don't get me wrong. Allie's hiding over there. But boys usually go after like explosions and things that are cool and colorful. And that's kind of the stuff that I would look at for my boy.
Yeah, the hands-on stuff.
Yeah, definitely the hands-on. Well, these right here, like I said, when I first met you at the For the Love of Books.
Yeah.
This was what caught my eye, and it reminded me of the Calm Down bottles. And in all the moms groups on Facebook and stuff, you see people post these every so often to get your kids to calm down and just look into it. I'm just sitting there staring off into space. I'm like, I really like this.
They're mesmerizing. I spend a lot of time playing with
I have it up on my desk, so when I'm working, I can like twist it and play with it. If you put a light under it and it glows, you can really see it. So I don't have one of my little flat lights. I used to. And then you can just set it right there, and it becomes even cooler. And there you go. Ooh. So then you've got like the glowy, swirly. It's really pretty.
As my phone starts to buzz.
There you go. Yeah. See how important you are. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I would definitely be drawn to. So I'm sure there are other people out there, and maybe some of our viewers can post some ideas.
Well, and that's the challenge really with any book you publish. Like if you have done your due diligence and put together a good product, that there are readers out there, but how do you find them? And how do you get them, how do you get to recognize each other? That's the challenge in our digital age where everything's very crowded and busy and attention spans are short. How do you find your readers?
The $1 million question.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're actually running short on time. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Did Jason ever come back? We lost him into the void.
It was nice to see you at the beginning, Jason.
It happens every so often. Luckily, it was him and not me, because then that would have really screwed up.
Yeah.
But for anybody out there who's watching, thank you for.
She just pointed out we didn't. If you're looking for good swag items, this is a Jacob's ladder, and I just got it made with my logo on the top. And if you turn it, then it clicks down. These are really popular. So I got these originally thinking that I would just have them as a giveaway, but they actually sell pretty well.
That's like what is it, perpetual motion type thing, or?
Yeah, the ribbons just alternate, and so the way they're connected, if you twist it back and forth, and it just toggles on down. So, yep, good swag item.
Then like we said right at the beginning, the swag items, the little eye catchers are super important when you go to just any public event, really. Doesn't matter if you're doing like a school visit or if you're doing a talk or any time that you're out in the public and you've got to set up somewhere, having those sparkly, shiny, colorful things. It works. It does, draws people in.
Yep.
See, teenagers already flying with them.
That's right.
All right. Well, we've got to run out. I can talk. See, I can do that. We've run out the clock, and it's time for us to say goodbye for this week's episode. Thank you guys again for watching. For all of you watching live, hello and thank you. And for all of you watching later on, we will catch you around the internet. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like and share. Tell everyone about our channel. And we'll be back next week with another author to introduce you to on Spilling Ink.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.